I thought letting his mother help with our wedding would make her love me. Instead, it just gave her practice replacing me. My name is Allison. I'm 29, and I used to think that compromise was the key to a happy marriage. That if you were just kind enough, patient enough, quiet enough, eventually even the most controlling mother-in-law would soften. Spoiler alert, she didn't. She sharpened. And then she sliced me out of the picture like I'd been penciled in. I'm telling you this now not for pity, but because no one warns you what it's like when the family you marry into decides they can upgrade you. And yes, I said upgrade, like I was an appliance, not a person. But let's rewind. Because once upon a time, I thought I had it all. Ethan and I met at a mutual friend's 4th of July barbecue. He was tall, kind-eyed, a little shy, the kind of guy who offered you the last burger and actually meant it. We started dating that fall and were engaged 2 years later. He proposed in a quiet little park with my grandmother's ring. I cried. He cried. It was real. Or at least, it felt real. Looking back, there were signs. Warnings I filed under normal family drama. His mom, Carol, made a passive-aggressive comment at our engagement dinner about my simple dress. She insisted on bringing a backup cake to our tasting. At one point, she actually said, "Well, we'll see how long the newlywed phase lasts." I laughed it off. I didn't want to make waves. I wanted to be the cool daughter-in-law, the easy one, the one who didn't challenge her. So I let her plan the entire wedding. And I mean the entire thing. She picked the venue, the flowers, the color palette, the seating chart. She even changed the entree last minute because I just think salmon is safer, dear. Ethan said, just let her have it. You know how she is. And I did know. What I didn't know was how that one decision, to let her control the beginning, would become the blueprint for everything that followed. I let her pick the curtains in our first apartment. Then the dishes. Then the crib for a baby we didn't even have yet. Every choice I made, she revised. And every time, Ethan just said, "It's not a big deal, babe." But it was. Because with every not a big deal, I disappeared a little more. By the time we hit our 2nd anniversary, I couldn't tell if I was Ethan's wife or Carol's intern. Still, I kept going. I kept smiling. Until the day Carol introduced me to her. Samantha. The family friend she'd been raving about for weeks. The one who just gets along so well with everyone. The one who cooks the real way my son likes. The one who, one day, I came home to find standing in my kitchens, wearing my aprons, serving my husband dinner. I wish I could say that was the moment I snapped. It was. It was the moment I realized. This woman wasn't just a guest. She was the audition. And I was no longer the wife. I was the warm-up act. If you had told me back then that I was slowly handing over my life like a polite hostage, I wouldn't have believed you. Because it didn't feel like surrender. It felt like being a good wife. It felt like choosing your battles. It felt like maturity. But now I know better. It started with small things. Carol didn't ask to come furniture shopping with us. She told us what time she'd be picking us up. I had a Pinterest board full of cozy, neutral earth tones. She brought fabric samples in bold florals and loud gold hardware, like we were furnishing a Southern beauty queen's sitting room. She has great taste, Ethan said. Just humor her. And I did. I humored her when she insisted we host Thanksgiving at her house, even though we had already invited my parents. I humored her when she, accidentally, used my name to set up Ethan's dental appointments, even after I'd specifically said I didn't want to be involved in that. I humored her when she referred to Ethan as my baby in public, at our wedding, in front of 150 people. And every time, Ethan just smiled, shrugged, said, "You know how she is." Yeah, I knew. She was a woman used to being the center of her son's universe. And I was a woman trying not to orbit too far. For the first year of our marriage, I convinced myself it was just a phase. We'd grow out of it. We'd have kids, move to our own rhythm, she'd back off. Right. Wrong. Instead, things got worse. She had keys to our apartment, not a spare key, her own set. For emergencies, she said, except the emergencies included things like rearranging my spice rack while I was at work, dropping off Ethan's favorite sheets, translation, the ones I'd already thrown out, putting post-it notes on my fridge with dinner ideas he'd actually eat. I told Ethan I felt violated, disrespected, that her presence in our home made me feel like a tenant, not a wife. He rubbed my back and said, "She's just trying to help." Then why does it feel like she's trying to erase me? He didn't answer. He just kissed my forehead and turned on the TV. Then came the accidental comments. "You used to wear makeup more often when you two first got together. Have you thought about getting your hair layered again? It really suited your face. Are you sure you're feeding him enough? He looks a little tired lately." She said all of this with a smile. I tried to brush it off, but the weight piled up like invisible bruises. And through it all, Ethan stayed good. He made me coffee, rubbed my feet, told me I was beautiful, but he never, not once, stood up to her. And so I started to shrink. I stopped suggesting weekend trips. She'd inevitably invite herself. I stopped redecorating. She'd fix it while we were at work. I stopped buying new clothes. She'd give me gift cards for places I didn't like and say, "This will really elevate your look, sweetie." I didn't want to fight, I wanted peace. But peace came at a cost. And that cost was me. Then came her. Samantha. Carol's pet project. A daughter to me, she'd say. A family friend's niece who had moved back into town to reset her life after a bad breakup. She was soft-spoken, made killer banana bread, and had the kind of effortless domestic charm that Carol worshipped. "She reminds me of a young me," she'd gush. The first time I met her, I felt the shift. Carol didn't just like her, she presented her like a new listing. "Isn't she lovely?" she asked Ethan, right in front of me. He chuckled awkwardly. "Yeah, she's great." That should have been the end of it. But it was. Samantha started showing up everywhere. She happened to be at the farmer's market with Carol the same day we went. She dropped by the house with soup when Ethan had a cold. She joined us for dinner when Carol invited herself over, without telling me she'd invited a guest. And Ethan, he got comfortable with it. He talked to her like they were old friends. Laugh at her jokes. Ask for her opinion about things he used to ask me. It was little things at first, then bigger ones. He showed her the garden I'd been planting. He sent her a playlist I'd made for him. He complimented her banana bread in front of me, after I'd spent 3 hours making homemade lasagna from his mom's old recipe. I confronted him once. "What's going on with you and Samantha?" He looked genuinely confused. "What do you mean?" "You two are close." "She's just around a lot. My mom likes having her over." "I'm your wife," I said, "not your mom." He didn't respond. Just walked out of the room. That night, I couldn't sleep. I stared at the ceiling and tried to remember the last time Ethan had asked me how I was feeling. The last time I felt chosen. The last time I didn't feel like I was in a slow-motion audition I hadn't signed up for. Samantha was winning. But I didn't even know what the prize was anymore. Because this didn't feel like marriage. It felt like survival. And I was losing. The moment I knew things had really shifted. It was over a casserole. I had spent all afternoon making Ethan's favorite, chicken and wild rice with extra mushrooms, just like his mom used to make before she upgraded to quinoa and kale. I even folded the napkins the way Carol liked, thinking, God, hopping, that maybe if I embraced her traditions, she'd finally see me as part of the family. She arrived, uninvited, with Samantha in tow. Again. No call, no heads up, just the two of them breezing into my kitchen like they owned the deed. Samantha brought her famous lemon pie and a bouquet of flowers, my favorite, which felt less like kindness and more like a dare. "Oh," I said, forcing a smile, "we weren't expecting guests." Carol waved a dismissive hand. "We just popped by to drop this off, but if you've got food cooking, I mean," she looked at Samantha, "might as well make it a girls' night, right?" Ethan didn't even glance at me. He just said, "Sure." That dinner was excruciating. Carol monopolized the conversation. Samantha laughed at all the right moments, praised the wallpaper she knew I had picked out, and then, midway through dessert, Carol dropped the bomb. "We've been talking," she said, casually sipping wine, "and we thought it might be fun to host the family Easter brunch here this year." I blinked. "Here, as in our home?" She nodded. "Oh, don't worry, I'll do everything. Samantha's already volunteered to help." I looked at Ethan. He looked at his plate. "Sounds fine," he muttered. No one noticed when I got up and cleared the dishes in silence. No one offered to help. No one asked if I wanted a house full of his extended family and his mother's apprentice rearranging my cabinets and calling it hospitality. I was done being consulted. Now I was just informed. A few weeks later, I came home from work to find that the Easter plans were well underway. There were boxes from a party supply store stacked in our living room, a color-coded seating chart on the fridge, and Samantha, in my kitchen again, prepping carrot cake batter like she'd been living there for years. "Hope you don't mind," she said with that same gentle smile. "Carol said it would be easier to bake everything here, so we're not rushing the morning of." "I do mind," I said quietly. She blinked. "Oh. I never agreed to host this." Carol, who had been standing in the hallway the whole time, chose that moment to walk in. "Allison," she said, all sharp vowels and judgment, "this is what family does. We contribute. We support each other." "This doesn't feel like support," I snapped. "It feels like invasion." Ethan walked in just in time to hear that. He looked between us, the women in his life, and said nothing. Nothing. Just hung up his jacket and went to the den. Like we were background noise. After that, I stopped pretending. I stopped playing hostess, stopped baking, stopped smiling. I let Carol plan Easter, and I didn't lift a finger. Let them use my kitchen. Let them swap my throw pillows for ones she said, photographed better. Let them move the furniture and pin floral garlands to my walls and label everything with calligraphy tags Samantha had clearly printed at home. I dressed in all black that day, not intentionally at first. But it felt right. A funeral for my self-respect. And then came the worst part. After the brunch, as people trickled out and the wine wore off, I found myself alone on the patio with Carol. She was humming. Actually humming. She turned to me and said, "That went beautifully, didn't it?" I said nothing. She tilted her head. "You know, dear, not every woman is meant to be a wife." My stomach turned to stone. "Excuse me." Some women are better background. Not everyone can build a home the way Samantha can. She's very gifted, very natural. "You mean more natural than me?" Carol smiled, like I had solved a riddle. "I just want what's best for Ethan." "I am what's best for Ethan," I snapped. But even as I said it, I didn't believe it. Because deep down, I could feel it. I wasn't the wife anymore. I was the placeholder, the seat warmer. The wrong answer they'd been too polite to correct, until now. That night, Ethan didn't come to bed. He stayed on the couch, claiming he was just tired. I asked him what was going on. He said, "I don't know who you've become, Allison." I stared at him. "You let them move in," I whispered. "You let your mother replace me in our own home. She's just helping. You're the one who's been cold, distant." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. "I have been distant." He shrugged. "It's like you don't even like being around my family." I laughed, a bitter, hollow sound. "Your family has been trying to erase me since day one." He didn't answer. And in that silence, I heard everything I needed to. I wish I could say I left that night. Packed my bags, walked out with my head high, cue empowering music. But I didn't. Because I still thought I could fix it. I thought if I just explained it right, if I just showed Ethan how deeply his mother was manipulating him, how dangerously cozy Samantha had become in our lives, he'd see it. He'd come back to me. To us. Spoiler, he didn't. The real twist came the following weekend. I had finally decided to do something for myself. I booked a massage, turned my phone on silent, and told Ethan I needed a day of space. To decompress, I said, to think. He nodded absently, barely looking up from his laptop. Sure, take your time. That was the last civil thing he said to me for weeks. When I came home, the house was too clean, too quiet, something was off. I walked into the kitchen, and there it was. A grocery receipt. Nothing dramatic, just mundane. Eggs, milk, flour, lavender, and organic turmeric root. Turmeric, the same ingredient Samantha had said she used in her healing teas. I remembered her raving about it during brunch while Carol nodded like a smug doctor. I opened the fridge. There was a half-empty pitcher of iced tea. Labeled in cute cursive on a sticky note, anti-inflammatory magic S. I stood there staring at that heart, emoji like it had slapped me. She'd been here. While I was gone. In our home. Alone with my husband. I found Ethan on the balcony, watering plants he never cared about before. Was Samantha here today? He didn't flinch, just kept watering. Yeah. Why? He shrugged. She dropped off groceries, hung out for a bit. I folded my arms. Why would she be here when you knew I was out? His face hardened. Because she listens, she doesn't make everything a fight. I laughed, I couldn't help it. It was either that or scream. She's not your wife, Ethan. He put down the watering can and turned to me, expression blank. Maybe she should have been. Silence deafening, paralyzing. You don't mean that, I whispered. He looked me straight in the eyes. I don't know what I mean anymore. For the next week, we barely spoke. Carol called every day. Samantha dropped by to check on the basil. Ethan slipped further into this passive shell of himself, letting the women around him orchestrate our lives like I was already gone. And then came the dinner. Carol invited us over as a family. I didn't want to go, but Ethan said, just come, keep the peace. So I did. I wore a dress Carol had once called too loud. I brought wine I knew they wouldn't drink. I showed up and sat in that chair like it was a throne of pins. Samantha opened the door. She was wearing an apron. Carol's apron. The one she used for family holidays. The one I had asked to borrow during our first Thanksgiving and was told was too fragile for a novice cook. I stood there stunned. Oh hey, she said brightly. Come in, we just finished setting the table. We. The meal was a blur. Carol praised Samantha's attention to detail. Ethan raved about her roasted carrots. They laughed like a family. Like I was the guest. I was invisible. I was the shadow of a woman whose name had been quietly crossed out and replaced with someone more manageable, more pliable, more Carol approved. At one point, Carol stood, glass in hand, and raised a toast. To Samantha, she said, glowing, for stepping in and bringing so much warmth to this home. You've been such a light to us all. To us all. Ethan raised his glass. So did Samantha. I sat there staring at the stem of my wine glass like it could save me. And then it hit me. This wasn't about tea or turmeric or gardening or being warm. This was a hostile takeover. And I had been too polite to fight back. I didn't say a word the rest of the night. Didn't cry in the car. Didn't beg Ethan for answers. I just stared at the window in the dark, watching my own reflection flicker every time we passed a streetlight. I wasn't his wife anymore. Not in their eyes. Maybe not even in his. And the worst part, I had handed them the tools to do it. One sure, let her help at a time. After that dinner, I stopped pretending. Stopped showing up to their Sunday family lunches. Stopped asking Ethan about his day when he came home. Stopped trying to be likable, flexible, forgivable. Because the truth was brutal and boring at the same time. I had been slowly evicted from my own marriage. And the worst part, no one was even hiding it anymore. Ethan and I became roommates. He'd sleep on the far edge of the bed. We'd pass each other in the hallway like colleagues in a shared office, polite but emotionally distant. Sometimes I'd hear him laugh at his phone and feel sick, wondering if it was Samantha texting him some goddamn banana bread meme. Carol kept calling, I stopped answering. Samantha kept stopping by, I stopped caring. Until the day I came home from work and found her in our bedroom. She was hanging new curtains, lavender ones I hadn't bought. I stood in the doorway, silent. "Oh, Allison," she said, startled but not apologetic. "Carol thought these might brighten things up a bit. Ethan said it was fine." I stared at her. Ethan doesn't live in this bedroom alone. She didn't answer. Just kept smoothing the curtain hem like it was her own damn house. I walked out before I said something I couldn't take back. That night, I confronted Ethan. "I want her out of this house," I said. "She was just helping." "No, Ethan, she's not helping, she's replacing me, and you're letting her." He rubbed his eyes like he was tired of the conversation before it even began. "Carol likes her, she's been there for me. I'm your wife." He paused. A pause that lasted too long. "Are you?" he said finally. I stared at him. What the hell is that supposed to mean? He didn't look up from his phone. "I don't know who you are anymore, Allison. You're angry all the time, distant, cold, you act like you hate everyone." "I hate being erased," I snapped. "I hate that your mother walks through this house like it's hers. I hate that you've let Samantha move into the parts of our life that used to be mine." "You gave up," he said quietly. "You stopped trying." I laughed. "I stopped trying because it didn't matter what I did. I planned your birthday, and she outdid me with a homemade quilt. I made dinner, and she showed up with your favorite cookies. I put effort into this marriage, and all you saw was how easy it was to have someone new." A silence. Then Ethan stood and walked into the bathroom. He closed the door. And locked it. 2 days later, I came home to find the guest room repainted. Samantha was in yoga pants, barefoot, holding a roller brush and humming to a playlist. Ethan was on the floor, assembling a bookshelf. They looked up briefly. "Carol thought this would be a good reading nook," Samantha said, cheerful. I didn't speak. Didn't scream. Didn't cry. I walked to the bedroom, opened my laptop, and Googled divorce lawyer near me. Because this wasn't salvageable. It wasn't even mine anymore. I wish I could tell you I left that night. But no. What I did was worse. I stayed for 2 more weeks, haunted, hollow, silent. And in those 2 weeks, I watched them rehearse my replacement. Samantha made dinner. Ethan washed the dishes. She curled up on the couch with him. They shared inside jokes. Carol dropped by with photo albums. Yes, albums of Ethan as a baby, which Samantha fawned over like she'd known him her whole life. I stood there, a ghost in a home I decorated, in a life I designed, watching my mother-in-law curate the reboot of my marriage with a more obedient actress. The final nail. Carol hosted a family game night. I wasn't invited. Ethan claimed it was just miscommunication. That same night, I opened our shared Google Calendar and saw the event labeled Carol's house, Sam and Ethan game night. That emoji broke me. Not because it was there, but because I knew he put it there. That weekend I packed. Not dramatically, no slammed drawers, no crying on the floor. Just a quiet, surgical removal of my life from a place I no longer belonged. I left my keys on the kitchen table. A note next to them. "You and your mother seem very happy with your new arrangement. I'm removing myself from the triangle." May she treat your next wife better than she treated your first. I didn't wait to see his reaction, because I already knew what it would be. A shrug, a sigh, or worse, relief. 3 weeks after I left, Samantha moved in. Not officially, of course. There was no announcement, no housewarming invite. No, hey, Allison, just so you know your husband's replacement is fully moved into the life you built. But I saw it. Instagram made sure of that. Carol posted a photo. Samantha in my kitchen, wearing my apron, holding a casserole dish I recognized because I had bought it with my first paycheck as a wife. The caption: Sunday supper with my real girl blessed. A real girl. Like I had been a rehearsal. A dress rehearsal she tolerated until the one she actually approved of could hit the stage. The comments were worse. People I hadn't even spoken to since the wedding writing. She's such a perfect fit for the family. Love how happy Ethan looks now. This is the match we were all waiting for. I stared at my phone like it had grown teeth. Then came the mail. A few weeks after I'd moved in with my sister, I got a padded envelope from Ethan's address. I opened it thinking, what? That maybe he'd written me a letter? A last apology? A card tucked inside with a message about how this had all gone too far. No. Inside were my high school class ring, a dried-out lipstick I'd left in the guest bathroom, and a pair of earrings Carol had once bought me that I never wore because she said they elongated my face in a flattering way. No note. No context. Just my leftovers. Like I was a drawer he was clearing out. I blocked Carol. I blocked Ethan. And yes, I blocked Samantha. Not because I was trying to move on gracefully. Because every time I saw them, I bled. Every scroll through their smiling faces felt like salt in wounds I couldn't even describe to my therapist without crying like I'd lost a limb. Because that's what it felt like. Like someone amputated my marriage with a butter knife and handed it to a woman who had been trained to wear my skin better than I could. I heard through a friend that Ethan and Samantha hosted Thanksgiving at Carol that year. Carol made a speech. We're so lucky to have Samantha. She brought light back into our home. It's like we finally have the daughter we always dreamed of. Not a daughter. The daughter. I was a bad dream they all woke up from. But then I got a message. From Ethan. Short, hesitant, sent at 1:23 a.m. I've been thinking about you. Not sure what I'm trying to say, just I'm sorry for everything. For a moment my breath caught. Not because I wanted him back, but because I wanted to believe he still saw me, that I hadn't just vanished without a trace in their upgraded family fairytale. I didn't reply. I waited 3 days, not because I was playing games. Because I was afraid. Afraid that if I said nothing, it would finally be over. Afraid that if I said something, it would never end. Eventually, I sent back. I hope you're well, please don't contact me again. He didn't. 2 months later, a mutual friend sent me a photo from a wedding. Ethan and Samantha, formal wear, big smiles, champagne flutes in hand. She wore ivory, not white. A subtle gesture, a second wife move. Carol beamed beside them like she was finally at the right wedding. They'd done it. They'd edited me out. The captions said things like, "So happy for this perfect couple. Sometimes the second try is the charm. Everything happens for a reason." I stared at the screen and realized they weren't hiding anymore. Because there was no one left to hide from. My therapist asked me that week if I'd considered writing a letter to them, not to send, just to release it. I said I couldn't. Because the rage was still too fresh. Because I didn't trust myself to stop writing once I started. Because deep down, I was afraid the only words I had left were, "I hope she breaks you the way you let them break me." But instead, I wrote something else. I let you choose your mother over me. I let her raise the volume of her approval until I couldn't hear my own voice. And now, I've let myself leave the theater before you clapped for her performance. Enjoy the show. Because in the end, that's what it was. A performance. One I refuse to act in anymore. People always say, you marry the family, not just the person. What they don't say is, sometimes the family marries each other. And you're just the outsider holding the bouquet. It's been almost a year since I left Ethan. Since I left them. Because them was always the problem. It was never just him. It was the us I thought I'd built, slowly being rewritten by the ones who believed I was temporary from the start. Now I live alone, in a small apartment with a drafty window and a leaky faucet, and it's mine. There are no lavender curtains unless I buy them. No banana bread unless I bake it. No unexpected visits from women who want to rearrange my life like a living room. The silence is loud sometimes. But it's mine. For a while, I kept wondering how it happened, how I let it get that far, how I gave up me in the name of keeping the peace. But then I realized, peace isn't peace if it only exists in the absence of your voice. I didn't keep peace. I kept quiet. And there's a big difference. I started therapy, finally, proper therapy, the kind that makes you ask questions you don't want answers to. Like, why did I need Carol's approval so badly? Why did I keep choosing Ethan's comfort over my own dignity? Why did I think being low maintenance made me worthy? Turns out, people-pleasing isn't kindness. It's fear dressed up as virtue. And I was terrified of rejection, of being unlovable, of not being wife material. But now I'm learning to love the part of me that didn't bend far enough to break. The part that finally said, no more. I still see them sometimes. Not in person, God no, that chapter's locked. But online, tagged photos, mutual friends, the occasional awkward run-in at the grocery store. Ethan and Samantha with matching windbreakers looking like a catalog ad for Midwestern recovery romance. He looks content. She looks polished. Carol looks like she's won. Maybe she did. But what she doesn't have is me. And that's not bitterness. That's survival. Because if being good enough for that family meant being invisible, then no thank you. I'd rather be too much on my own than not enough for a room full of people who never saw me in the first place. One of the last things my therapist said to me this year was this: you didn't lose. You escaped. That house wasn't a home. It was a stage. And they were all reading from a script that never had your name in it. I cried when she said that. Not because it hurt, but because it finally made sense. I don't want another Ethan. I don't want a man whose loyalty comes with strings tied to his mother's apron. I don't want a man who thinks love means compromising who you are until you disappear. I want someone who sees me. Really sees me. But more importantly, I'm learning to see myself. Because for too long, I measured my value through Carol's eyes. Now I measure it through mine. And you know what I see. A woman who got out. A woman who stood up. A woman who finally stopped apologizing for taking up space. If you're reading this, and you're in a relationship where you feel like you're always one wrong move away from being replaced, let me be the one to tell you. You are not disposable. You are not the problem because you have opinions. And you are not the villain for wanting to be seen. You are not a placeholder. You are a whole damn person. Act accordingly. So here I am now. Sunday morning. No roast in the oven, no passive-aggressive brunch, no label maker, no casserole competition. Just me. Coffee, quiet, a book I picked, a playlist I made, and sunlight through my curtains. And that's enough. For now. For always. Subscribe to my Mia's Stories YouTube channel for raw, emotional stories and authentic insights that encourage healing, growth, and understanding. Don't forget to be part of a supportive space where stories inspire and lessons resonate. What do you think about this story? Let us know in the comments. Your opinion truly matters to us, and we're here for you.